Good evening. My name is Kelechi, and I would like to welcome everybody on this platform to day 2 of our mental health series by SCAHF. And this is a series of discussions, and we're currently on day 2 now, where we'll be talking about a mentally stable mind, peace, and wellness. And we have a couple of great experienced speakers who will be talking today and giving us a run through about what this involves and what help is out there for people living with sickle cell disease. Um, I would like to start by introducing each and every one of us, and I'll start with introducing my humble self. I'm Okeagu Kelechi, and I'm a medical doctor by profession. I currently practice in critical care in the UK, in the West Midlands. And I'm also joined um, by two wonderful ladies who have had a chat with, and I'll pass the floor to them to just give a brief introduction before we start talking and digesting this topic. So over to you, Zainab.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Zainab Saleh. I'm a psychotherapist in clinical practice. I've been practicing for a little bit over 5 years in private clinical practice and maybe 1 or 2 years in public settings. I'm so glad to be here today. We all know how important mental health is for everyone and specifically for people who are dealing with chronic pain and chronic illnesses. Thank you everyone for being here.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to have you here, Zainab. And Audrey, do you mind giving a brief introduction about yourself, please?
All right, good evening, everybody. My name is Audrey Mukoro. I am a sickle cell warrior, an advocate, and a founder and executive director of Audrey Sickle Cell Foundation. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, it's so wonderful to have both of you here to share your wealth of experience and just to let everybody know, to create awareness for people living with sickle cell disease, and also to share and help to digest this topic, mentally stable mind, peace, and wellness. Without wasting too much time, I'm just going to throw the floor open to Zainab so that we can get to the nitty-gritties of what we're trying to discuss here. So if it's okay for Zainab, is it okay if you take the floor?
Okay, thank you so much. Um, we've had some talks like this in the past. The reason this is a little bit different is because you're hearing my voice. Normally, it's just via chat, which isn't quite as interactive as this one. So I'm glad that we're moving from WhatsApp to Zoom. So it's a little bit more interactive and I can get more feedback, hopefully, from everyone. So the topic we already see it on the screen: mentally stable mind, peace, and wellness. And when we talk about mentally stable mind, and you now go into saying, okay, peace, wellness, what exactly are we talking about, right? If you look at peace on its own, the dictionary definition of peace, it's basically seen as the opposite of instability, war, conflict, battle, whatever you want to call it. But in this context, what we're talking about is not the absence of conflict, but being able to manage conflicts that you're having well enough for you to have some semblance of enjoyment in your life, being able to see through all the conflicts that you have at every stage in your life, to say, okay, maybe within this situation that I find myself in, which obviously we all know that's what life is all about. It's always full of strife, but you are able to still find peace within whatever environment or situation you find yourself, right? So I want to talk about peace a little bit as a counterpoint to war. What exactly are we talking about? When you talk about a war, you're talking about several battles, different battles at different points in time, sometimes concurrently even. And basically, a battle is an unresolved conflict. It is a situation where you are being pulled in different directions, where the interests are conflicting. If you and somebody else, or you and another party, have the same interests, then there will be no conflict. You're moving in the same direction. But that rarely ever happens. What somebody else wants for you and what you want for yourself rarely ever mesh that well in all areas. So you then have these areas, pockets of conflict, which we're going to talk about a little bit in detail. So some of the areas where you can have unresolved conflicts are conflicts within yourself. So when you're talking about a conflict within yourself, it's a conflict between what you think you should be, what you want, and what you need. So what you need is the basics. It's your health, you need finances, you need a sense of belonging, you need love, care, all those kind of things. But what you think you want possibly could be fame, celebrity, money, things like that, right? So when you're having this conflict within yourself, where you are pushing your energy towards certain things that aren't necessarily aligning with your core values, you start having a conflict. You are not always connected to the thing that you're doing. It doesn't give you the fulfillment that one would expect from any endeavor that you are going into, right? Then when we talk about conflicts within with the family, it comes when your family have a different expectation or different idea of what they want you to be from what you are and what you want for yourself. So then you then have this kind of a tug of war where they are pulling you in one direction and you're pulling in the other direction, and you keep having conflicts back and forth, right? Then with society, we all know that there's like an expectation of where you are supposed to be in life. It's like a formula kind of. You are born, you go to school, you are a good girl or a good boy, you graduate, you do your NYSC, get a job, get married, have children. So those are the expected milestones. But sometimes the milestones for you may be different. You may want your own sequence of life to be slightly different from what is the norm or the expected. So that conflict can also be a little bit of an issue. And that can affect your feeling of being at peace with what you are presenting to the world and what is inside of you, right? Then the most important one is the conflict you have with reality. When you have a conflict between what you expect for yourself, what you are trying to achieve, and then reality. Reality being your socioeconomic status, reality being the state of your own health, reality being the ability or interest or capacity of people to support you towards whatever it is you are moving towards. So sometimes those can also cause a little bit of a friction for you and affect your feeling of peace and well-being, right? So when we talk about finding peace, it's not an absence of war. We're not saying do away with every conflict you may have or run away from every difficulty. If you go into a situation and it starts becoming a little bit difficult for you to control, you just abandon it and go for something else. That's not it. It's mainly coming to an understanding, an acceptance of different parts of your life as they exist. Many times we have a very different view or understanding of our life than what is presented to us. We are living in a kind of a utopian version of our lives, and you can't have peace with that, because every time you see someone having like an issue, or they are worried or they're troubled, it's usually a situation where their expectations or what they have in their mind is colliding with their reality. So you expect of yourself that you are this person who can run a marathon, and that's not your reality. So you get disappointed because you've already placed yourself somewhere and it doesn't coincide with what you have in terms of your capacity or your real life resources and assets, right? So let's talk about a little bit about gender. Your gender expression, your gender reality affects a lot of the time. It affects what you can achieve in terms of, especially with when you're somebody that is living with sickle cell, but in general, your gender affects what you can achieve. It affects the kind of dreams you can have. It affects the things you can indulge in, or the things that you can open yourself up to. I'll give you an example. When you are a woman, there is a biological reality that you have to live with. If you ever have the intention of settling down and having children, then you have a much shorter period of time to get your life together, finish school, get your career going before you start facing having children and all those things. That is a gender reality that no matter what you want to do, you have to accept it. The opportunities to women to travel and have international jobs, for example, if Facebook comes and hires you as their West Africa lead, you're going to have a bit of an issue if you have a spouse. But the other way, it doesn't work. It doesn't happen the other way, because if it's a man who has been given this opportunity to be West Africa lead for Facebook, he's traveling all over Ghana, Cameroon, everywhere with no issues, and no one is saying anything. But when you are a woman with children, with a family, it kind of affects the reality of what you can achieve. It kind of puts a kind of a cap a little bit on the things that you can achieve realistically, right? Another thing again that affects your ability to find peace in life is when you overestimate or underestimate or misunderstand what your socioeconomic status opens you up to. That is your privilege or lack of it. When you are in living in reality, not when you are sheltered or being protected by everyone, when you start living in reality, you understand how much of an impact your socioeconomic status has on your success and has on your opportunities and has on your ability to be taken seriously. Many times the social class you come from, the economic class you come from, opens you to opportunities that aren't open to other people, except maybe in minor cases, very rare cases, right? Another thing again about understanding your reality is understanding stigma. Stigma isn't going anywhere. It's something that we've lived with for so many years. While it's obvious that we need to inform and educate people about the realities of sickle cell, it still has to come back to us to understand that stigma will exist in the interim before we are able to get to the place that we want to be of enlightenment and for people to accept and understand. There's still going to be stigma. And if you are telling yourself that stigma doesn't exist, or you are refusing to see the extent to which stigma affects you, every time every time you have an incident or a situation comes up or a circumstance that reminds you of that thing, it takes away a little bit of your ability to find peace within and acceptance within your reality, right? The last one is dependency, and that one is something that we all have an issue with. Understanding that no matter what people say to you about being self-made or completely independent or whatever, no one is self-made, no one is independent. We are made to be codependent on each other. The level to which you are codependent on people would obviously be more, simply because you need more care, you need more assistance, you need more help. This is something that you have to come to terms with. You have to accept it, you have to understand it, because the more you keep telling yourself, oh, I'm an independent, this, and this, and then you are hitting the reality point of, oh, you aren't as independent as you think, you still need people. That is also another place where you find that collision or that conflict takes away your opportunity to find peace and acceptance of your reality, right? So the second thing is, okay, now you've understood your reality. This is who you are. These are the opportunities open to you. These are your limitations. What's the next thing? Is to discover and pursue moments of joy. Now, one of the things that I have always seen with a lot of warriors is they have such a lovely ability to find humor in everything. It's a very lovely thing, and I'm sure almost all of us have seen it before. Even when they are very ill, they make jokes, they just make light of the situation, and I understand why they are doing that. It's because they don't want to always be wallowing in self-pity or feeling sad or depressed or down. I understand all those things. And I'm happy that it's that way, because now what I'm expecting for us now moving forward is that when we are in a good place, when we are blessed to have, no matter how small it is, some kind of support, we have each other within our community. I would really love for us to relish those moments and find joy in all those moments. I know that being in this community allows us to complain about things that are going on with us without feeling like we're burdening anyone. But at the same time, I also want us to find laughter and joy and enjoy just the community feeling, and also find joy in our own lives, because I don't think there's anyone whose life doesn't have some little corner of joy. And if you have a little corner of joy and you focus your whole heart and your whole mind on it, it will magnify, and it will take up a lot more space in your life, right? Okay. The next one is the thief of peace. Those emotions that steal away your peace. Even when you come to terms with your reality, you are trying your best to enjoy those moments of joy and trying to relish them and magnify them. There are times when these things will steal into you and they are trying to steal those moments from you, right? One of them is fear. When you think about your life, you sometimes can feel hopeless. You can be afraid of your future, especially when you are right in the middle of a crisis or in pain or dealing with a physical condition that is refusing to heal, things like that. So when you are afraid, it takes away your ability to absorb joy and absorb positivity, right? So managing your fear, managing the feeling of guilt, of course, because you are taking resources from your family, your friends, their time, their money, and a lot of times they have to juggle a lot of things together around to be with you and take care of you. Then the resentment can come from wondering why why you, in the sense that, okay, you didn't do anything wrong. This happened and you found yourself in this situation, and you're reminded every day of all the things that this sickle cell is stealing from you. And some days, I mean, nobody's an angel. Some days you are just like, why do I have to be the one that has to deal with all these things? But let's break down resentment a little bit more. Resentment is an emotion you feel because you feel entitled to something and you are not getting what you feel entitled to. So you feel resentful. So there are two things. It's either you have invested in someone or in something and you haven't gotten a return on your investment, or you feel entitled to by virtue of the relationship you have with someone. You feel entitled to their time, their care, their love, and you're not getting what you feel you want or you deserve. Resentment comes in. And anger, we all know why you're angry. Anger is one of those emotions that is a mask. Underneath your anger could be sad, could be fear, could be sadness, could be guilt, could be resentment, could be so many, envy. It could be many things. So anger is a mask, and it's like a mask we use to cover softer feelings, things that make us feel vulnerable. So underneath your anger, it's also important for you to know, to identify the actual thing, emotion you are feeling. Maybe you exhibit anger, but you're actually sad. Why are you sad? Find out. Maybe you're showing anger, but you're actually underneath it, you are just a little bit feeling a little bit helpless. You're feeling like a burden. You're feeling so many different feelings underneath. So that's one of the masking feelings. So you have to always be conscious of the core of anger. Where is it stemming from, right? When it comes to resentment, I always say, if you have a feeling of resentment, ask yourself the two questions. Am I feeling entitled? Am I feeling entitled to something that I should feel entitled to by virtue of I've invested in someone, the person is not returning that investment? Fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You can have a frank conversation with the person and say, oh, you know what, I actually felt a little bit a certain kind of way because of this and this and this and this. It's not about or confronting or accusing someone, but you are sharing how you feel, because there are sometimes when the other person could have a very good reason for something they've done, but you don't even give them the opportunity to explain. I'll give you an example. Let's say you have a sibling who usually goes with you for your checkups, or if you have to be in the hospital, the person stays with you, things like that. But then they have something they are doing, and they just tell you, oh, I can't come with you today. Please, can you get someone else to go with you? And it's in your mind. You are there thinking, you are worried. Oh, this person doesn't care about me anymore. Blah, 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 blah. And once you have a conversation with the person, you may be able to understand that, oh, this is a human being who also has a life of their own. They have a lot of responsibilities, duties, and things they're trying to balance alongside the care and love that they are sharing with you. And that can take away a little bit of the feeling of resentment, right? Okay, so I think we can go to the next slide. So let's move to wellness. Wellness is basically talking about everything about your health, not only your physical health. It's talking about physical, mental, intellectual, spiritual, financial, every aspect of your life, right? And wellness is not focused so much on when you are physically ill. It's focused on living as the best life you can. So aside dealing with things like depression and anxiety and feeling a sense of being abandoned, all those kind of things that require you to put in a little bit more effort in balancing yourself and feeling a little bit better, probably even working on seeing a professional. Outside of that, there's still room for you to improve your life a great deal. You may not be living optimally in certain areas of your life, and the continuous development and continuous progress towards holistic health, that is a top to bottom health, is what wellness is basically about, right? So physical health, that one I'm sure you covered much later. And I know that there was a session last week that talked a little bit about depression and all those things, so I won't go too deep into that. But one of the things that I want to touch on a little bit is finances, because it's something that is a reality. There's a lot of financial resource that is channeled to health. For majority of people that are living with sickle cell, their finances are unstable because they are always channeling their resources towards paying their hospital bills, taking their routine drugs, keeping warm, all those kind of things. I remember I watched a video on Dani TV where I think it was last month or so, and they had some warriors on the show. They're talking about how much money they spend on healthcare, and they are doing well, but they can't afford certain things. They can't invest in a home. They can't buy or change their car just because a lot of their finances go towards their healthcare. We all know that insurance isn't the way, which is a topic for another day, but insurance in Nigeria is a little bit problematic because when you have a chronic illness, diabetes, hypertension, sickle cell, you are not covered for the first 2 years. So you are just basically paying your premiums for 2 years and you don't have a cover. And then there's a limit. There are procedures that they won't cover. There's a specific number of hours you get to see a consultant, so many things. So at the end of the day, the financial burden is still on you and on your family. So that one is something that I don't know how we can tackle it, but I know it's one of the things that affects your general well-being when you have to keep concerning yourself or worrying yourself about your finances, right? So for emotional health, it's just basically talking about your baseline feeling. So when we talk about happiness in general, and that's just a general word for positive feeling. So everybody has a baseline. If you suddenly get $1 million, your happiness level will spike up, but within a year or maybe even less, it will come back to what it used to be before. If you have a loss or you lose a job or you have a relationship issue, it will go down, but with time it will go back to what it always is. That is the baseline for you. So the baseline for you is your own stable or static happiness level. For example, let me use something that will make it a little bit more relatable. Like if you go to the hospital now and they check your PCV, they will tell you a certain number and ask you, oh, what's your normal PCV? So you now say, oh, this is the number, or this is the number, or this is the number, and they're like, oh, okay, that's good. It's better than normal, or it's not as good as normal. But there's a normal for you, and most people living with sickle cell know what is their usual healthy PCV, right? So your usual healthy emotional health positive level is specific to you, and it's something you have to build on your own. You build it by consistently and constantly monitoring the things that are around you. You have to be very, very, very conscious of all the things that come into your life, every aspect of your interactions, your communications with people. You have to be very vigilant. Nobody is going to come and make you happy. I hope everybody knows that. You are the one that has to work on it every single day. You work on it from the inside out. Nobody's going to come from the outside and make you happy, right? So I just want us to brush through a little bit through the things that threaten our feeling of holistic wellness, our emotional health, physical health, and all those things. Illness and pain, we already know what basically what that is about. And I won't go too much into this because I know most people have a way they deal with their pain. They have specialists they are seeing for that and all of that. But that is one of the threats to physical wellness, obviously. Then stigma, of course, we already know it affects your mental health, it affects your emotional health, and maybe to a certain extent affects your financial health too. Because if we didn't have all these barricades to accessing quality health insurance based on the fact that people are saying, okay, this is the underlying condition that you have, maybe we would be in a better state financially and obviously emotionally as well. So one of the other things again is expectations. Our expectations of ourselves, that's internal pressure to perform and succeed. You sit down, you look at your siblings, your family members, the people you go to school with, the people you work with, and you benchmark your own your checklist of what it looks like to succeed is based on what you are seeing externally in what quote unquote your mates. Then on the other end is the internal pressure. There is an internal pressure to succeed. Forget about what you see outside. There are things within yourself that you want to achieve, that when you achieve them, you feel better about yourself, you feel confident, you feel happy. It increases your, will I say, how much you like yourself. Of course, you hopefully love yourself all the time, but how much you like yourself is also increased, right? So some of the expectations we have are a threat to our emotional, our physical, our mental health, because when you set yourself a very high bar of success, your physical health is affected simply because you are pushing yourself beyond your limits. You want to keep, I'll give an example so that we understand where we're coming from. I have some people that tell me, okay, they know that they have meetings today, or that they have a job that they are going to go and do, or they have a longer shift than normal. And because of that, they take painkillers. They're not in a lot of pain, but they take painkillers before they even go to work. They make sure they have painkillers on them and all those things. Painkillers obviously are just for that moment. When you get home, you just crash and you are in so much pain, you are going through so much, you are just not in a good place physically. But the reason you are doing that is because you have this internal pressure within yourself to perform at a certain level, and then an external pressure from other people because you have given them the impression that this is the level at which you can perform. So now you have set a standard that you have to keep meeting, right? Stagnation is also another threat to wellness. You know, when you focus on only one aspect of your life, all other aspects of your life start to dwindle. They start to die a little bit. They are not, your life isn't moving forward on all fronts. So sometimes, unfortunately, when all your energy is focused on being physically well, when all of your energy is focused on just getting through the day, a lot of all the other things that would move you towards wellness are kind of put on the back burner. you don't consider saving, investing, and all those things because you're putting your mind on being well. You're not thinking about working on your emotional health, assessing yourself, getting to a place of self-awareness because you're working on your physical health. So sometimes the stagnation that you feel or that is actually happening in your life comes because you have to push all your energies towards one aspect of your life, and it's now kind of causing you to not be able to invest in all the other aspects of your life that create a whole person, right? Okay. This one is something that it is such a big issue. Every single time I'm asked to speak at any of this sickle cell like forums and all those things, one of the questions that I always get asked every single time is, how do I find a life partner? And as much as I say it every time, as much as I talk about it every time, it's still a question I keep getting all the time. And I understand that as a whole person, no matter how much we want to believe that we're self-sufficient, there comes a stage in your life that you want to share your life with someone. I understand that part. And one of the difficulties for a person living with sickle cell is obvious. There's the expectations people, um, even casually, if you go on Twitter or you go on Instagram, people make certain comments and they make certain things. Like the other day, I saw somebody tweeted about, oh, somebody tweeted something like, oh, those people that are AA um, are the people who people are rushing. We don't follow people, they are the ones rushing us. I was just like, okay, I know it's a joke, but it speaks to what is actually happening. A lot of people don't really want to be in a life partnership with somebody who has a chronic illness. Of course, we know people around us who have sickle cell and have settled down with their partners, they're doing well, they're happy. But the numbers of those that are finding difficulty in getting a life partner and remaining in a relationship are so many. And I don't want us to downplay, I wouldn't want to downplay the specific difficulty of being somebody who has sickle cell and going into a life partnership. It's an extra layer of difficulty. It's already difficult finding a life partner, but it's an extra layer of difficulty. Imagine that the first ever conversation you have with someone will always be, what is your genotype? Which is, well, this is my genotype. Because you don't want a situation where you start the journey and you start getting involved, and then the person finds out, and then it's now a different thing entirely. So one of the most difficult things to get over and to deal with and to live with in terms of all the other things that sickle cell robs you of, that takes away from you, one of the ones that is so difficult is in terms of finding a life partner. And once you find a life partner, having offspring and the number of offspring you can have, all of that, right? Let me go to the next slide. Okay, so how do we put those two things together? Finding peace, which is accepting the reality and that you are dealing with something that is chronic, is a lifetime thing for most people. And also at the same time, trying to live the best life you can within what the life you've been, the cards that life has dealt you. Okay. One of the things we need to always remember is it's a journey, and with a journey, you have slow days, you have fast days, you have days that you just sit on the side of the road and you're crying, you have days that you get up and you are making a lot of progress. Some days you take the wrong path and you find yourself back to a point where you thought you had passed before, right? So it's very important that you learn to appreciate the progress you've made, and you learn to, if you've ever used Google Maps, you'll find that if you start going the wrong way, there's a little arrow that says recenter. And when you press it, it will now give you a new set of directions based on where you are. So every time you find yourself going off the path that you know you're supposed to be on in your journey to peace, finding peace and being as well as you can, having that holistic kind of approach to your life. When you find you're going off that, you just click on the center, ask yourself, how did I come off the path so far? How am I going to get back on track with all the things that I've listed out for myself, all the resolutions I've made for myself? And did I, for any reason, overstretch myself? Should I take more baby steps? Should I simplify the things that I'm doing? Should I put a few of these things on the back burner and focus more on other things so I make more progress, right? Listen to yourself all the time. The first ever place that I always say you need respect is within yourself. Respect your intuition, say, okay. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can. Sorry, I think your slides just went off.
My slide went off, right?
Yes, it just went off. Yeah.
I'm back. So when
Okay, better now. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you are asking yourself questions now, one of the questions you should always be asking yourself is, what are the things that trigger me? A trigger is just basically a precipitating event, or it's something that kicks off a chain of events that leads to some other unwanted event or wanted event, whatever it is, right? When we talk about triggers in, for example, physical health, we know that we're talking about things like cold weather, we're talking about things like excessive physical strain, and most importantly, emotional stress, because emotional stress is a very big issue for most people living with sickle cell. It's draining, it's much more draining even than physical stress, right? So when you talk about your triggers mentally, what are the things that put you in a kind of a negative space mentally? What are the things that make you lose hope in yourself? What are the things that make you feel helpless? What are the things that make you feel less than? So once you've now narrowed it down to some list of certain things, it now makes it easier for you to manage or avoid those triggers, depending on whether they are avoidable or not. The ones that are avoidable, fine, of course, but the ones that are not avoidable, how do you manage the effect it has on you? Then physically, we already know our triggers. Most people are already well aware of the triggers they have for within their bodies. They listen to their bodies, they know, right? Then emotionally, what I want us to focus on a little bit emotionally is when something is a trigger for you emotionally, what I mean is an incident happens and the way you perceive it makes you have a certain emotion. It makes you maybe angry or afraid or fearful or resentful or guilty or whatever it is, right? When you know your triggers, for example, you find that, okay, let me use a general example. You find that every time you are ill and people come around you, it makes you happy, it gives you that boost, you're happy, you are joyful and all those things. And the opposite is the case, obviously. When you are ill and people don't come around, you start feeling down, you are kind of start feeling a little bit sad, you start ruminating, feeling resentful, all those kind of things, right? So when you identify the things that trigger certain feelings in you or certain emotions in you, it's your first step to managing all those things, right? Be kind to yourself. It's one of the things I always say is when you are on a journey and some days or some weeks or some months or some years are very slow, you have to be kind to yourself. Imagine a conversation you would have with your friend. Many of us have a friend that will come to us and say, oh my God, Zainab, I can't understand. How did I make this terrible mistake? Look at how it's affecting my life. Oh my God, I'm so stupid. How couldn't I have seen? Why didn't I realize? And I'm not going to start telling my friend, you have always been a fool. Look at you. You can't even reason very well. But we say those things to ourselves. You sit down and you're saying to yourself, how could you be so foolish? You're saying to yourself, why didn't you realize? Why didn't you see? Why did you speak to yourself in such harsh tones that you would never ever speak to someone else in the same way? So the way you would speak to somebody you love and you care about, the person, somebody that you're kind to, is the same thing you should be doing to yourself on your journey to peace and wellness. You start feeling like you're accepting your reality. Okay, I've understood myself. I'm getting this. I'm getting this. Something happens and you find that you have gone back to square one. It's not for you to start castigating yourself. Just ask yourself the normal questions. Oh, what happened? How did I come back to this point? I thought I had made a lot of progress. Oh, maybe I haven't gone as far as I thought. What are the things that I can put in place to maintain my progress every time? What are the things I can put in place to ensure that when I have made steps towards accepting stigma or understanding my emotional triggers, I don't put myself in those situations again, right? Lastly, reevaluate your priorities regularly. That one is very important. What you want today, yeah, you should know that you're entitled to change your mind at any point in time. Nobody gets to tell you, oh, but you said, so I said it, I'm saying something else now. What are you going to do about it? So reevaluate your priorities regularly. If your priorities are initially to do with your health and getting to a good place health-wise, and then you find yourself at a point in time where your health is quite good, the next thing is to look down on your list of priorities and say, oh, now that I have a relatively stable health, what are the other things that I need to shift up in my list of priorities? What are the things that I need to tackle? Okay, vice versa. You have some stability in your health, and then some days you are not really doing very well. You have to deprioritize certain things like for finances or career or friends to bring up your health to a good level, right? Allocate your resources towards your priorities. When you have prioritized your, for example, now your health is really good and you want to start prioritizing your career or your school or whatever it is, now you have to allocate your resources accordingly. Be careful of overstretching yourself. You have only a limited number of hours a day. You have only a limited number of even productive hours in a day. Channel them carefully towards those things. Don't be distracted by doing the fact that, and which is, I'm sure all of us can relate to that. Whenever you are well, there are 101 things on your to-do list. When you feel you wake up, not too much pain today, a little bit of energy, you start thinking of 300 different things that you've been wanting to tackle, but it can't work. You have to really, really look at the areas that need to be tackled, the resources you have at hand, and focus on them. Because when you just go into doing 101 things, nothing gets done, and you yourself burn out. And of course, we all know what happens after that, right? So I think there was something I wanted to touch on a little bit in the last slide. I think I forgot. Talking about this finding a life partner. I want us to understand that whatever in life you're trying to get, what you're sacrificing for it should be worthwhile. Among our warriors, we have people that are sacrificing their health because of they want to be with a life partner. I have people who have been able to have one or two children and have been asked not to have more children, but because their spouse is putting pressure on them, they choose to jeopardize their health and probably their lives by still trying. We have some people who are in relationships that are abusive and are causing them to keep having more and more crises, especially because of the emotional stress of being in an abusive relationship, and they remain in it because they have prioritized life partnership over themselves, their health, and people that care about them genuinely. The kind of issues and things that people come to me with are frankly heartbreaking most times, and I wish and hope that with time we'll be able to look at ourselves and see value in ourselves, so that we don't allow people to come into our lives with this kind of energy where they make us feel like they are doing us a favor. They make us feel like they make us feel insecure in the relationship we're in with them. We always feel like we're trying to prove a point. We're always trying to prove ourselves to be worthy of them. That's not ever a space I want any one of us to be in, right? I think I should be basically done. Yes, this is my take home. I want us to remember that your energy is finite. You don't have an infinite amount of emotional or physical energy. So while you look at other people and you want to blend in, you want to fit in, you don't want to be obviously different, the energy you are expending in appearing normal, looking normal, doing things with other people, and not understanding that sometimes you are really, really, really putting your health, yourself at risk by always trying to appear normal or be normal. The energy you're putting into all those things could be put into other parts of your life that are within your control. When we are growing into our teens and our 20s, we are in groups of people, obviously, who are of a different health status from us. The things they can do are different from what we can do. But we push ourselves to do those things. And it causes issues and problems for us with our health and with every other aspect of our life as well. So as much as I understand the feeling of wanting to be normal, I would still want us to keep in mind that there's actually no gain in trying to be someone you're not. Live within your reality, understand your limitations, and keep people around you that respect your no and that invite you for things, even though a lot of times you're not able to attend. Okay, so I think with that, I'm done.
Thank you so much, Zainab. It's been really educative for me listening to you talk. Listening to you alone, tells me of the passion and the wealth of experience you've had in dealing with things like this. And I forgot to mention earlier, if there are any questions at this point, it would be nice to put that on the chat section, so that at the end of, because of time constraints, at the end of the talk, we can take a lot of those questions and try and tackle as many as we can. But just to give a brief summary of what I think the most important takeaway from your talk has been, Zainab, for me, has been for you to know your limits and also to be kind to yourself. These are really very important points that you mentioned, because there's no point pushing yourself to the extreme to try and do what you can't just in order to try and please others. I think the most important thing should be yourself here. You should know your limits, and I think everything you should do, you should endeavor to please yourself. Not being selfish now. There's a difference between pleasing yourself and being selfish. You just have to do what is within your limitations. And without wasting further time, I think I'll leave, if Audrey could come in at this point, just to share her own experiences, because I know we have a lot of people out there who are trying to understand, because Nigeria itself presents its own peculiar challenges. And I believe a lot of people living with sickle cell would want to know what the help is out there. A lot of them want to key into people that share the same kind of experiences with them to know how they were able to overcome such challenges. So at this point, I'll leave Audrey to come in and share her experiences with us, if that's okay. Audrey? Hi, do we still have Audrey online?
Uh, Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. But we can't see you. Would love to see your lovely face, Audrey.
Okay, thank you, Zainab. Can't you see me?
No, we can't.
Can you see me now? Are you for real? I think it's the network. I don't know. I'm on here.
Yeah, I think your video is about to
Can you see
come
me
up.
now? Okay.
Okay, there you are.
Okay. Thank you, Zainab, for that. That was a lovely section, a lovely talk. I actually enjoyed it. So, talking from my experience personally, I'll say before I came out to be an advocate, I had my own share of depression, mental health issues, and stigma, which is the things we are used to as sickle cell people or sickle cell warriors. So what there was a turning point for me, which I think that was when I was 29, going on 30. I had finished school at about 25 or 6, and I tried working, doing stuff I could do. But at the time, I broke down, and my parents were like, "You're done with this job. You're not doing any more of this. We want you to stay at home and recover well, and let's see if we can set you up with something." And for me, that wasn't what I wanted. I'd always had a picture in mind that, okay, after school, I was going to work, I was going to, go to the office in the morning, come back, I always had that mindset. So, with this frequent illnesses and crises what I was having, my parents didn't want me to keep working. So they kept me at home. I kept talking. Everybody was on my neck. No, you have to rest. We don't want you to stress yourself and all of that. Can you hear me?
Yes, we're hearing. We're here.
Okay, so that was the beginning of my issues. I I knew I wasn't comfortable with that. I tried to get them to see my point of view, but it wasn't working. So I was always at home. Either I'm in my room, I when I come out, it's just to come and eat. Then maybe I go back into my shop. I was angry with everybody. Like, why are you people doing this? My brothers, they didn't even get up to my age, before they left the house. And here I am this old, and nobody is wanting me to do anything because I have a health condition. How can I keep up? What if you people are not here, in future? How am I going to survive? So that was what was going on for me. I kept thinking, and how do I do this? There's no way to escape it. And because of all of these thoughts I had in mind, I was bitter, I was angry. I began to have feelings of depression. I was no longer finding anything interesting. I was not having the things I normally enjoy doing. I was not finding it interesting anymore. And that was how I got into depression. But prior to this time, I had a relationship with my daughter's father. We're no more together though, and he kept saying that this is for your own good. We want you to be better. We want you to do this. We want you to be fine. And for me, I was like on the side of people, and you are not helping out. So I said I didn't want anything to have to do with him again. That he should please kindly just leave me alone. Let me deal with my situation myself. unknown to me, I'd already taken in, and all of these emotions, bag of emotions, were just coming up like that. My parents were still trying to make me understand, and each time we had to talk about it, I felt more depressed. And I'll go back before it's daybreak. I'm already having health issues. I have to go, go to the health people again and say, oh, because is there something you're not doing right? Because I was not eating well. I was not, taking water. I didn't find it that interesting after that time. So when I got to the hospital, I think the last visit before the end of the year, that was almost the end of the year. The last visit I had, my PCV was low, and that was how they got to do a pregnancy test for me and, discover that I was pregnant. And it was as if God had already known what I was going through. So he just gave me this little ray of hope, which was the pregnancy. Oh, everybody was excited that I was pregnant, but I, for one, I had always wanted a child, but I didn't want it to come the way it came. And it came at the time I was battling, struggling with myself, finding ways to come out of my struggle, come out of my depression. So nothing was working for me, but it was that little ray of hope that, oh, I'm pregnant, finally I have it. I'm going to have my own child, and I need to be strong. Like the doctor has said, if you're not stable, there's no way you'll be able to carry this pregnancy through. So that was it for me. That was the turning point for me. I had to, make conscious effort with the support of every other person in the house, come out gradually out of my depressive mood and began to do, get to do the things I used to do before that I find joy in. And it was like the first 2 months, it wasn't easy. It wasn't really easy, but after the 3rd month, I kept going for antenatal, and the doctor sat me down and told me that he understands what I'm going through. I had to open up to him that this is where my problem started from, and nobody seems to understand me and where I'm coming from. What if I don't have parents tomorrow? What's going to happen? How do I survive? Do I keep lingering on or banking on their presence in the house? He said to me that I should take it one step at a time. First, I am dealing with not just myself. I'm now having an unborn child, which I need to make conscious effort that the child stays alive, and I have to stay alive to do this. At least for me, it is already a sort of joy, which I was happy about. So with his encouragement and a little bit of sections, going to the hospital to visit him and see him, even when I didn't have appointments, was just to make sure that I came out strong. And yes, it really helped me. But I think if I was not, I don't think if I had that, if I didn't get pregnant at that time, I don't think I would have been able to, come out. Immediately I got to about the 2nd trimester, I started having, issues again, low PCV, infection, and the doctors kept saying, you need to get better, you need to do this, you need to do that. So for me, it was really, really, really a turning point. I think my daughter's arrival was a huge turning point for me. When she finally came, that was when I came out fully to say, I am going to do this for myself. I'm going to do it for my daughter. I'm going to do it for people that are warriors that cannot, speak up. And I'm going to create the awareness, which is what I'm doing now. What Sickle Cell is. It is not every warrior that will come out to speak, talk about their mental issues, because they find it that we see it as we're being a burden to somebody, or while people don't understand us. So want to bottle up a lot of anger, a lot of bitter emotions, and which in turn leads to mental health issues. I think I think God had already seen what was going to happen, and that's why He gave me that light of ray of hope.
Yeah.
And from that time till now, it's been a movement of helping warriors. And please, for me, I'd like to say personally to warriors, that sometimes we should learn to accept the things that are within us, our reality. It is what we're living with. You beat yourself from now to tomorrow, it's not going to change. You just have to find ways around it, to make yourself better, to make sure that whatever you're going through is a lot easier. If you find out that the people in your space are not helping issues, change your circle. I have done that and it has worked for me. There was those periods I had this depression, mental issues. I wasn't productive. I've never been a job person, but I used to do certain things. I was no longer productive. I was just there. I was just living. I was just existing, so to say. So it's not easy, coming out and owning your own story. But if you can't come out, find somebody to confide in. It could be a doctor, it could be a mental health specialist, it could be a friend, it could be a family member. Because if you don't do it, you keep having emotions that are, going to come up to cause depression. You're existing and you're not living. So we should kindly speak up. That was my experience about my mental health and a little bit of depression.
Thank you very much, Audrey, for sharing that. That shows how brave and how to share that life experience with us. I must really commend you. Not everybody would do that, and it's something worth putting out there just for people to understand, or people living with sickle cell to understand that they are not in this alone. For me, I think, especially in Africa, I think talking about mental issues, when you raise that topic up, it comes with a lot of stigma in itself. A lot of people see you as, a lot of people are shy to talk about their mental health here. I don't think it's something that we've come to accept.
Yeah.
As being, an illness, compared to when you say someone has diabetes or someone is hypertensive. When you say you have mental issues, a lot of people consider you as being mad. That's the only thing we know. The proper schizophrenics are out there on the road, walking about. But this is actually a really important issue that we fail to talk about as Africans. And one question I wanted to ask, in as much you had a lot of family and social support from all you said, did you have any, and maybe from your doctors, but did you have any formal kind of formal kind of help in terms of support groups? For instance, people that you shared with this, any other form of support that you had, and where to get them if you did?
Okay, for me, is the question for me? Sorry.
Yes, sorry, Audrey. Yes, yeah, it's for you.
Okay, I couldn't hear you. Please, can you repeat that again?
Okay, I was wondering, in terms, you mentioned that your family was quite supportive, and also the doctor that looked after you while you were still pregnant. In addition to that, did you have any other form of support groups that you joined, any form of organization or any other thing that helped you, especially during the time you felt down in spirit?
Yeah, I grew up, having this physical support group in Delta State. I grew up in that support club, MPA. It's called MPA, Sickle Cell Club. That was the club I grew up in, but at the time I left for school, I was not very You know, I was not around to participate in what they were doing. And all the time I had issues, I wasn't, you know, going there, you know, for their support. I just
Sorry, Audrey, we are losing your audio a bit here. Oh. Hello, Audrey.
or joined them back in after I'd given birth, and you know everything became balanced. So for me, at the time, it was my. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah.
I'm here. Okay, so I wasn't really active after school until I gave birth. It was when I came out, you know,
Sorry, I think we're having a lot of technical issues.
that I went back, you know, to identify.
Sorry, Audrey.
But yes, I grew up in a support too much longer. But at the time I had my, I think it's that was the 5 year support I had at the time, because I didn't go back to my support group where I grew up in.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, Audrey. Just a quick recap about all that has been said, really, and I'm glad Audrey has also mentioned some points Zainab mentioned earlier in terms of knowing your limits, privilege or lack of it, the socioeconomic status which you are born into. Yeah, of course, that really matters. Not everybody is privileged to actually have that financial well-to-do to actually support people with living with sickle cell. This is actually an enormous burden on your finances. Gender assignments, just as Zainab has mentioned, being a lady and also being a man actually exposes you to different challenges. But hopefully, as the world becomes more gender equitable, all this should be a thing of the past. The stigma that comes with sickle cell in itself, which we know the struggles that in history people have passed through living with sickle cell in the African continent, dependency, and then things that affect your joy, being self-content, which is really important in terms of distractors for us to achieve a sense of well-being and peace, fear, resentment, anger, and also some of the things that contribute to wellness and well-being, financial status, your emotional health. Some of the threats to this could be illness and pain, your expectations, difficulties finding a life partner, which Zainab highlighted. And Audrey has been wonderful to share a lot of her experiences with us, which I believe is really key to actually encouraging people living with sickle cell, for them to realize that they are not alone in these struggles. And I believe that when we share problems, I think it's half solved, really, because it's only when you share with people that you feel comfortable and confident in, that you're able to actually proffer solutions to try and start handling some of these challenges that we might be experiencing. So I think it's really important that when you do feel when you do feel low in spirit, I think it's really important you look for that confidence, someone who you can share with. If you have a great family support, that'll be a great starting point. If you have a close friend or someone who you can rely on, that would be a good point also. And I know, of course, religious, we being very religious in Africa, if you believe it's your spiritual leader or whoever it is, someone who would respect your confidentiality. I think that can be a good starting point. So at this point, I would like anyone with any particular questions to drop that on the chat section so that we can have Zainab or Audrey answer them accordingly, if that's okay. Not seeing any questions so far. Or Zainab, do you have any questions you'd like to, or Audrey?
Sorry, my mic was muted. I don't know if there were any questions. I just noticed the chat was, let me see. I didn't notice any questions in the chat, right?
Yeah, I can't see any myself.
Okay. Okay. I do know that sometimes, because of the nature of this is a little bit open to everyone, except if people send messages privately to me or something like that. But most times, questions are open here, so maybe people aren't as comfortable sharing those questions, you know. But even if it's after this, if you send messages to any of the organizers, questions you want answered, you can reach me personally if it's not something that you can't speak about openly. I wouldn't want us to have to make people maybe talk about things that are a bit personal to them openly here if that's not what they're comfortable doing.
Yeah, that's fine by me too. That's fine. So I'm pretty sure Dabota, if you don't mind, if you don't mind me calling on you, I believe if anybody has any questions they would want to share privately, Zainab will be happy. And if anybody wants to reach out to Audrey, I believe Audrey will be more than happy to take your questions and to assist you in any way possible, any way which she can help. And I'm also happy, more than happy to take any questions that I can answer. I think at this point, in the absence of any questions and looking at time being well spent, it's really difficult to keep track of time when you're having fun, really. It's been
Exactly.
really listening to you ladies talk. I've been really educated, and I've been, a lot of things have been brought to my knowledge, really, you know, from your rich experiences. And I really appreciate all that you have shared on this platform. And I would really look forward to seeing you guys again and to having this sort of discussion once more. So I really want to thank you on behalf of SCAHF for honoring our invitation to actually take this lecture. Zainab, it's been wonderful speaking with you. Audrey, it's also been a pleasure. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kelechi. Thank you, Zainab, and thank you, Audrey, for this amazing section. I learned a lot. I had to just keep short and then learn. So thank you very much. So we could call it a day. Thanks everyone for joining. We appreciate it.
Thank you.